Good morning, Coin Observatory. Good morning, world. Let's make sure we are alive. Looks like we're alive. Some big news happened in markets yesterday. We had the Fed, Jerome Powell, Fed chairman, um, went on stage, right? They had the FOMC meeting. In the FOMC meeting, they didn't quite announce rate cuts yet. But they said the Fed is willing to do what it takes to kind of prop the market up. That being said, the ECB, the European Central Bank, just a few days ago announced rate cuts. So they're going into quantitative easing. What does that mean for markets? So it's easier to borrow money. There's more euro being printed. The euro is getting devalued on the dollar. How does that affect Bitcoin? How does that affect global markets? Well, it's kind of complicated. I wrote a Medium article. I kind of highlighted this in my stream on Monday. I wrote this over the weekend. It's called the Macroeconomic Parallels. And it highlights various parallels that I'm seeing now to 2007. Basically, quantitative easing is what got us out of recession, right? So when global growth is shrinking, central banks deploy quantitative easing to kind of prop markets up, make money more available, make lending easier, and reduce interest rates. So, yeah, we haven't quite announced a rate cut, but it looks like it's on the books. This was Saturday, right? And I had a target for the S&P to make a higher high. And I'll kind of talk about all of this. It'll make more sense as I go on, right? So my target was 29.54 for the S&P if it was to break up. Here, kind of help you guys out. See that? So I was thinking it was going to come down, but either way, I was hedged both ways. It's kind of playing the strangle. And what ended up happening is we ended up breaking up, right? Just typical after the Fed kind of puts hopes out there. But this is the big but. I'm going to go to my my TradingView chart. We know, if you guys follow my last stream, we know that BTC has been running somewhat inverse correlation with major indices. And it might not look like they line up, but they do. So gold and the S&P are doing something very similar to what we saw in the 2007 top, where on this side, right, we see gold do number head and shoulders, somewhat of a cup and a handle and breakout. Once it broke out of the range, the S&P was at an all-time high. It signaled the short everything, and we're going in a bear market, right? A lot of optimism today. It's probably a lot of optimism back then. And what's happening now, I'm going to go ahead and move my face to the other side. And I'll explain how this relates to Bitcoin shortly in the crypto market. So what's happening now is we're seeing the same thing, right? Gold's doing this inverse head and shoulders, and it broke out of the range, and the S&P just knocked out a new high, right? Just knocked out a new high. So back to my inverse correlation, BTC, I've got this highlighted in Medium, and I'll go over it on the chart. So we've been running, I called it in geopolitical directional overshoot. Nope. Okay. They call it inverse directional volatility, where one goes up, the other one comes down. So if we see traditional markets go up and keep knocking out new highs, I expect BTC to kind of stagnate behind. The whole thing started whenever volatility picked up to the downside in December. BTC went up to the upside, and then when the S&P or traditional assets pivoted, BTC pivoted as well. The S&P made 16%, BTC lost 17%, then they both rose together, right? So we could enter an era of growth in both markets. And once again, the volatility got back to that inverse relationship where the S&P knocked out that new high and started pulling back, and when it started pulling back, BTC really picked up volatility. A 6% pullback in the S&P gave us a 64.95, 65% upside in BTC over that same time frame. So all that being said, I expect volatility to pick up at some point. I want to see indices turn around. It doesn't quite look like they're ready yet. I think today, Monday, maybe the G20 Um, let's take a look at the BTC chart itself, right? I haven't quite TA'd yet on its own. Before I do that, any questions on what I'm seeing on the S&P or on gold? We're seeing something very similar to the '07 top in my perspective. I like to trade cycles, and this thing's looking fairly cyclical, right? I mean, it looks like a spitting image, except here we have a fourth high, and this was the third high. But this should be worrisome, right? Why is gold breaking out? Is it just because of a weakening dollar? Also, it's not the ultimate. It's not gonna work forever as a hedge, because here in '07 we saw it come up, make a high, new high, and then kind of come back down and retest that breakout zone before it range traded into a new high, right? Why am I talking about gold? Well, because I did publish on gold on May 16th. I did say this whole thing was coming. It's on Medium. There should be a link in the video description. Published on gold when we saw this wedge, and that's the long it. All right, so moving on to XVT. I'm not getting any questions on this part so far. So I got some pivots, right, where we've pivoted along with the S&P. I'm gonna kind of zoom in, make this look a lot better for everybody. So the 240 or the daily chart is looking like essentially a bull flag, and we're currently above that previous resistance. Some of the guys had seen a descending broadening wedge. That's why there's those white lines. These typically break up after a retest. Where is this rejecting? It's rejecting the 1.272 fib. Indeed it is, right? So if you've been trading with me or even following our streams, this has been the strongest rejection zone. Typically on your average trading view chart, the 1.2 is not going to be highlighted, so your fibs are going to look like this, right? Like, hey, like, it hasn't hit the 1.61. What's going on? Why is it stalling? Because there's this hidden fib level that's been the key to all rejections recently, especially those like prematurely failed breakouts, and that's your 1.272. So make sure to turn that on. So we want to see BTC get back above. We want to see it come back up here, but we do know that a weakening dollar tends to lift Bitcoin anytime the DXY is falling. Same thing with a weakening euro. So fundamentally, we should be in rally mode. But the fact that the S&P just knocked out a new high, I want to see the markets turn. I want to see the S&P turn, which is going to give us a big boost in BTC, I believe. I'm not saying it's the all-time hedge, but we had been seeing much of an inverse correlation. And no, it's not a one-to-one inverse correlation. It's more of like a volatility and a swing correlation. Let's go to a 60-minute chart, and I can highlight that a little more. What's going on, Troy? I see you on Facebook watching. All right, so this is, market hasn't opened, but it's going to open way above, so we're going to go to the futures chart. Things that trade 24 hours, boom. And then remove all drawing tools. So I want to see this turn around to give BTC a little bit of a boost. Currently, if traditional assets are going to go up, I don't see a big reason for a whole lot of interest in BTC, right? If this was a pennant or a flag that we saw on the daily, we haven't retested, right? But the trend is still bullish, I believe. Let's kind of do that. So definitely seeing a triangle breakout. Let's just stick to the candles. I don't like using wicks. There's also an unfilled gap underneath, right? So if we were to add our BTC weekend gravity indicator, which is one of my scripts, there's still a big gap to fill to 84.33, so we could see a move down. But is this bullish? Is the season over? I don't think so. You know, back to opening up in next month in July, And I really want to see what I published on in the macroeconomic parallels play out, where where we see turns essentially in both markets. I want to use the ADX. I haven't used it in a while, not on a daily chart. We do know that the ADX turns at peaks and troughs. And here we turned at a 19 after making this big run up to 60, consolidated on the daily. Now we're turning at a 19. And we're posting a 23.24, technically in an uptrend. So the trend gets the strongest at 24.25, right? So we could see a big impulse move up out of Bitcoin from here. And so long as it doesn't reject at the 1.2, the overhead 1.2 of the bigger swing move, it can get really good for Bitcoin bulls, right? So I think we had it at like 1034 or 1068. Uh, 1060, right? So that's going to be my initial target for a rejection zone. If we do break out, right, we're going to see it want to reject here as it did on the hourly 1.272 fib. But this right here is a healthy ADX level. You guys can see because I'm an ultra wide. So we're right at that 23.4. I want to see us over 24. This is what happens when trend hits that 24 range, right? It really gets volatile. I've talked about this indicator previously. I do have a workshop on our YouTube workshops playlist on how to use the DMI, and ADX is one of the pieces of that DMI puzzle. So typically when trend gets at 24, it really accelerates. The trend is to the upside right now, right? We're going up, ADX is going up, so we're in confluence with the ADX. If we push through 24, we can see a big move up. We don't typically see much head turns at an ADX 24 level. Here we can see a downtrend accelerate. Here we could see an uptrend kind of post a turn at a 28. But typically, we're going to see a big trend acceleration at this ADX level, right? I go to auto. We want to see trend acceleration at 24, whether it's a downside or upside. And it appears that we are at one of those key levels that we could see more of a surge. And another thing that kind of confirms that is that Bitcoin dominance chart, right? So if you look at BTC.D, I was talking about this yesterday to our VIPs, and I said, hey, if Bitcoin doesn't get the boost from the US dollar, it's going to get boost from alts. Why am I saying that? Because you go on like a 30-minute, it did a pennant, it tried to break below, then it did somewhat of a diamond bottom below, and it shot right back up. I didn't actually post on this downward break. I don't want to get anybody excited because it could have been a fake out, and now it appears as it is. Right, so if BTC is not getting a push from fiat, it could definitely be getting a push from alts and a further altcoin capitulation. We do have one overhead level of resistance that we are currently at right now. That 60.40, we're at 60.37. All right, I'm gonna go to the 120, give us more of a chart instead of zoom out. Right, we see that we could see a little bit of a turnaround here. It would be nice. We'd get a little bit of an alt season, maybe a few trades in, and we'd want to retest the top of this pennant. So I'd like to see a turn, a BTC stall throughout the week, through the end of the week. I mean, but if we do head into that weekend and we gap up again, we can see another violent shakeout like we saw at 6,300. You guys have any questions on BTC? Do you guys think I'm wrong with the ADX? You guys want to highlight like divergences or anything that you want me to look at? Maybe TD sequentials on a daily. Let's do that. We're seeing a 9, right? We're at a daily 9 once again. Last time we hit a daily 9 was right here, right? It was at the end of this bull flag. You guys can see it. Last time we hit a daily 9 was up here, and we ended up rallying really hard. So it does mean we're going to turn. We could get a 10, 11, 12, turn it to 13, and get a big, massive, fat continuation. The only problem is the CME gap underneath, right? Which is going to be right down here at 84.92. If you guys are the VIPs, I did post that I was going to refine this based on gap retracements that we've seen in the last 2 weeks for the last couple of gaps, so we can actually trade it better like we were before the 6,300 gap. So I'm going to work on that today, put out the new code. It's only going to be available to the VIPs. We should kind of start getting some higher buyback levels and short 2 levels based on the gap. BTC is looking bullish. We had an RSI, see what divergences are doing. And I'm going to get to the TD sequential, get rid of the gravity indicator. Come on, comply. So this last high is not divergent, right? On the 4-hour, it is above the previous highs. Did we get a bullish div here? We kind of did, right? We got an MDRP div at least, like a mid-range divergence. I believe we did, right? So last thing we saw was some bull div. And ironically, I do think even if we're going to come down and crash, we're going to make another higher high before we do that. Trap some more longs, stop out all the shorts. We haven't seen a big volatile shakeout move in some time. I don't think that counts. So theoretically, I want to see a retest of this pennant, which looks more like a flag on the daily. And we're currently trading above. I want to see ADX continue. I want to see it push 24.25. Then I think we can safely long this thing. Yeah, so we kind of want to see what happens here. We want to get a turn. We want to see some more upside. I'm going to move back into indices, right, because they could be priming for a short. Gold and silver just turned around 8 minutes before pre-market or before market open. I'm checking ES1, which is the S&P. Because if these things are priming for a short, it's going to be the equivalent of shorting Bitcoin at 20,000 and watching the bubble pop, right? ADX is in the middle, 20, no, it's a 25, right? This thing's looking also as menacing as BTC. We are seeing a divergent high. The weekly charts were looking really ugly here. The reason I say they look really ugly is because we saw 3 higher highs. Now we're seeing a 4th higher high on all these lower lows, right? And on bearish divergence, failure swing, another failure swing. Now we're seeing us trying to come up and retest that weekly RSI. The weekly trend is at 12, right? And if this was the uptrend, it could be getting ready to turn. ADX turns at peaks and at troughs, right? So it could turn at a peak like it did here at the downside to move back up. I'm going to kind of mark my chart up a little bit so I'm not just talking. So right, and we did see the ADX peak over here, come back down, and then accelerate, right? So ADX peaks and troughs. All right, we want to wait for a trend reversal. ADX 24 is really strong. Daily looks strong, weekly looks really weak. So which chart do we trade? I'd rather wait for a formation before getting into a short here. Hourly ADX is not quite through the moon, but it's right where it likes to turn. Is that enough to give me a short signal? I don't know. I don't know. Like, we see a turn here, we see a turn here, we see a turn here, we see a turn here. These trend reversals, we see a turn there. We're right in that turning zone. All right, Ether USD. I know it's been stalling. I've been pretty bullish on this. And go to the weekly. I still see this thing setting up in a weekly bull flag. It could take more time to play out. All right. We're trading above resistance. We're kind of getting back into that resistance zone. But if this thing does play out like it did last time, we're going to see a big move, a really big move, like 6.54 fib, which is the equivalent of this last swing low, bull flag, move up, swing low, bull flag, move up. And we haven't seen it quite make the moves that Bitcoin and Litecoin did. I want to say for a good reason, right? I do believe Ether futures are launching this year, so they're going to try to suppress it before they moon it, before they dump it. You guys in VIP, I announced a silver call yesterday on SLV. We're just going to go to silver futures because silver itself, we'll check silver itself a little later. 240. I announced a call for $14.50 on silver. I do think we're gonna open there today, so it was a quick, easy money breakout trade. There's just so much positive things, so many bullish elements to this chart where we had inverse head and shoulders, we had a bull flag. I announced this one early, right? I announced this one down here, and then we made this bull flag and we shot up, right? So we go to SI or SLV, which is the chart we're actually trading. 1435, right? So it gapped up, it's moving up. It's gonna try to fill that gap, but I do think there's quite a bit of support here. There's further gaps overhead. We're gonna hit that 1450 on time. USO was another commodity that we're trading. Kevin and I had 1150 calls for today, for tomorrow, and next week, and right here 1156. So these commodities trading can be fun, right? We're doing them with options, so they're really profitable. You guys saw me close my options on BA after making like 2,000% profits. And I think I rightfully closed it right at the right time, right? I said, hey, I'm getting out. And it was good. So I might look into get into more Boeing longs on this retracement. Because there is more of an upside to this wedge. But I got out at 450, bottom at 21 cents. That's a hell of a trade. Altcoin questions, guys. I'm ready for you. Show me some alts. I want to look at what you want to look at. I want to see what you guys are interested in.